John, thank you very much for joining us on the LTWA website. Cast your mind back a few years, but your first memories of watching or listening to Wimbledon, when were they?
Well, in the 40s, of course. The first championship after the war, 1946. I was lucky enough to get one of the tickets that our school was given, and Pal and I came here, and I can remember the thrill of walking through those gates for the first time. We now call it Gate 5, the main entrance on Church Road, and my heart was all aflutter, and I was looking around at all the wonderful things that were happening, and it was a terrific experience. And then, of course, when the days we weren't able to come, I would sneak a radio into school, and a portable radio, and we'd listen to Max Robertson describing the matches in his quick-fire way. Quite wonderful the way he covered every rally, it seemed, without drawing breath. So my early memories of Wimbledon were being a very excited schoolboy, being enthused by all that was happening and really inspired by Wimbledon. And I think I knew then that I wanted to make tennis part of my life.
Well, the next part of your tennis career was playing it, as you did, to such a high level, competing here over many years. As a player, how did you find it then dealing with the media? Was there much media to deal with?
There wasn't. I mean, there was no interview room, of course. What would happen is the correspondents would pick on the match they wanted to watch and would catch you as you came off court and started talking to you about what your impressions were of the match or whatever they wanted to do. And I remember once getting caught by somebody who I won't name to save him his blushes. I just lost to Frank Froling, the American, in 5 tough sets, and I'd come off court really angry with the elderly umpire, who it seemed to me had made mistakes, not against me all the time, but both ways, which upset us all. And I remember letting off steam to somebody saying, to this correspondent, who shall be nameless, saying, "Well, I thought that old fool on the chair should never have been allowed to umpire at all." I quite disgraced myself. And then I had a phone call from a member of the club committee the next day, saying, did I really think it was wise to speak like, because it was all reported. Anyway, my own blushes were considerable at that time.
After your playing days, then becoming a reporter, correspondent for the Financial Times, and of course a commentator on the other side of the fence. How did you find that, dealing with the players then?
That was very interesting. I mean, I never thought at the time when I was playing here that I would ever end up on the media side, but it sort of happened quite naturally. I had a phone call one day from the Financial Times saying that Jeff Owen, who was the editor, had recommended me as somebody who might be good to employ doing stories on Wimbledon, and would I be interested? I said yes. I was. It was 1963. The difficulty, of course, for me was I didn't type at that stage, so I had to write all my stories in longhand, in pencil, because of the quite amount of scratching out or rubbing out. And around me in the press room in those days, people like dear old Laurie Pino and Frank Rostron and all the rest of them were tapping away on their noisy typewriters, and I found it rather difficult to concentrate. But of course you had to learn to concentrate through all the noise and write your copy somehow. And then phoning it, there was always a crush. In the old press room there was what is now the members' tea room. And just outside was a little, nothing more than a corridor with about 12 phones in it, bolted to the wall each side. And you first of all had to wait to get one, and then you had to dial through and file your copy. And the copy takers at the other end were not always very good, and you were shouting to get yourself heard, so there was pandemonium in there as well. It was all very interesting. Nothing like today, where it's all quiet, everyone works on a computer, and the stories get written very discreetly and without disturbing anybody.
Well, thankfully the printed word still exists, and you in particular have been very involved with Wimbledon over the years, writing a number of books. Tell us about the latest ones that you've just published.
The latest one, Wimbledon, the Official History, is the 3rd edition of my Wimbledon story. And I started that in 1976 to reflect the first 100 years of the first 100 championships. It was the 100th championship in '75, so that's when that came out. And then in 2001 we brought matters up to date with the Millennium Championship in 2000. And this latest one covers the last 12 years. So chapter 11 is 2001 to 2010, and then 11 and 12 is chapter 12. And of course the climax to the whole thing is the Olympic Games, London 2012, and that's chapter 13. And what a happy event it was that Murray should win his gold medal, and you know, we had a happy ending, and Serena with her gold medal as well, which made her completed her set with her sister. You know, it was a wonderful story.
And of course there are plans to develop even more in the future, the 2020 vision and beyond. It never stops here, does it?
That's right. In fact, the epilogue of this latest book talks about Wimbledon 2020, which is what we've called the club has titled it. All the developments that can be expected, or some of them anyway. At the moment it's just a vision. Not all the things that we have been talking about will happen, but most of them will, I'm sure, particularly the roof on number 1 court, because I think everyone realises now that you have to be able to guarantee play for those fans who have come here, from many of them from overseas, from long distances. You can't leave them with an expensive ticket and no tennis. So a roof on number 1 court, I think, will do it, because there are something like 11,500, 12,000 seats there, and that's going to be redesigned too as well to make it bigger and higher, I think, slightly, a couple of more rows of seats, which is what we did on the centre court a few years ago, and the 15,000 on the centre court. So you have 25,000 people guaranteed tennis. So I think that's a must.
And a few million around the world watching and listening as well.
Hundreds of thousands, millions indeed, watching on television, so and listening on radio. Let's not forget that.
As you did all those years ago. John, thank you very much for talking to us.
Okay.